The Revolutionary Memorial. It began, again, much bigger, like I always do. Again, in my head, I have this vision. I had this vision of a Minuteman, and in front of the Minuteman was this drum dedicated to the Battle of North Bridge. The drum got done, but the Minuteman didn't. The thought behind the drum was, I read a story about one of our drummers. And I think it was one of the histories that Dan Lacroix did about Westford Minutemen. And I was doing the research for the Minuteman. I even did kind of a bust of a Minuteman that I ended up breaking up and throwing out because I got irritated with it. One of the Minot's down the street at Minot's Corner, Captain Minot's children, or teenagers, were in the battle in the Revolutionary War. One of them was a drummer. I was thinking that's pretty incredible. So many drummers were children, and so many were killed in battle. And when I think of the Revolutionary War, I always had in my mind a drummer somewhere and the soldiers marching to the beat of a drum. And so that's where the drum came from, the idea of the drum. And I also got, for the top of the drum, I thought it'd be really cool to have the Sons of the American Revolution symbol on it. And the reason why I wanted that is because these are the grave markers of all the Revolutionary War soldiers. I thought that would be obviously appropriate for this memorial. I had to actually contact the Sons of the American Revolution to get permission from National to put it on there, and they gave their permission. And so there it is. And I sculpted that in with plaster, and I made it the top of the drum. I think it's the best place for it. The drum itself, weeks and weeks contemplating how I was going to do the drum and get it perfectly cylindrical. I was in an antique store and I saw like an old fruit basket, or it's a hat box or basket, something like that. It's pretty tall. So I bought that as my base for the drum. And I ended up using other materials, like I used some rope, I sculpted some rope, I used clay for like the wreath on the bottom, and I sculpted the wreath, and I sculpted the bands on the drum, and multiple materials to get what I was trying to do. And I brought it down to the foundry. When I got to the foundry, I formed the plaque that you see on the front. I did it out of clay. I did it right there in the foundry with my little stamp letters, and they did the drum, and they said next time if they do it again, because I have the mold, they're like, it's gonna have to be more money, because that was tough. So I was here at the museum, and Linda Greene, the museum director, asked if she could borrow the drum for a display for Patriots Day. And I thought about it. Now the drum was finished in 2016, and it had been sitting in my laundry room, and I'm like, sure. So I brought it up, and she mentioned that maybe she could put it on permanent display. And I thought about it, and I just said, yep, sure. And that's what started this. At Greene Materials, I went down there looking for a rock. They said you can have any rock on the property. And I found it way out in the woods. It wasn't even part of the rock that they, broke up in the quarry. It was something that's off in the woods. And I said, that's the one I want. And they're like, really? And they took their giant payloader and got it in there, and they brought it up here. And so I told Linda, I said, we can't just have the drum. I have to do something else with it. And so I sculpted a flag using a method I had never used before, which it was interesting. I bought a Grand Union flag, which is the flag that George Washington raised in Cambridge when he took over the city during the siege of Boston. That's the flag that he raised. And so I bought this flag, and I ended up pouring, I think it was 50 pounds of wax, a lot of wax I had to boil on my stove, bring down to my basement, and then paint on the back of this flag. I got a nice thick layer. I brought it to the museum, and brought my scissors and my heat gun, and I put the drum out onto this rock, and I sculpted this flag right on the rock. And it ended up fitting exactly the way I wanted it. It was a totally different way of sculpting for me. I would have rather have done it like out of clay, but it's impossible because I was trying to fit it to the rock. I wanted to look like the drummer or the soldier put that flag down right next to the drum, and so it drapes. And that's that. I always was amazed about how Westford has always been involved in not only like state events, but national and world events. And this is one of them. Like, so many people don't realize that Colonel Robinson led the militia and the Minutemen onto the North Bridge for that, one of what they consider one of the first battles of the Revolutionary War. He was right next to Major Patric of Concord, and Isaac Davis of Acton was right behind him. And he was there, and he could have taken charge because he was a superior officer, but he didn't. He wanted to be there, volunteer, and support Major Patric, and I think that's so cool. And there were a handful of Westford people there. Westford, Concord, Acton, and then more came in after. But a lot of people don't realize that we were actively involved with that. And I think Colonel not Robinson, but there are Westford people on the memorial at Bunker Hill who died at Bunker Hill, or died en route to Bunker Hill or to Cambridge. There are so many. 280 people fought in this battle, and we really don't have anything to honor all of them. We have things to honor like Colonel Robinson, but nothing separate, nothing for them, and I think that's so important.